My typical commute includes a mix of bike riding and longer distances by a commuter train, with my bike stored on board. Given that I have a few flights of stairs to go up and down each way, I prefer lighter weight e-bikes for the commute that let me travel with my work clothes on and not have to worry about a shower after my bike ride. For the past couple of weeks, I've been testing out another new brand for the channel, and it's clearly optimized for the commuter while also being one of the more expensive bikes that I have tested on the channel. Hello everybody, this is Matthew Miller, otherwise known as Palm Solo, and thanks for visiting the Mobile with Matt YouTube channel. Please subscribe for more reviews and to support this channel, and if you enjoy the content, share it on your social networks too. In typical Washington State winter weather, it's a little bit rainy out here today, and I'll talk about what I'm wearing a little bit later in this review. You may see me put my hands in my pockets just to stay a little bit warmer and to keep dry as I go through this review. So as you can see, the folks at Vvolt sent along its Centauri II e-bike to test out, and it includes a mid-drive motor and auto-shifting transmission. Two aspects that I love about my current favorite commuter e-bike, the Lectric One. Let's first unbox the Centauri II. The Vvolt Centauri II arrived in a typical cardboard box. One nice thing about their box is it was very specific on the box itself how to open the box properly. And they wanted you to open the box from the end. So the arrows all pointed to the end, and I was able to undo the tape and slide the bike out in order to be able to assemble it. And Vvolt sent along some gear that I'll talk about a little bit later in my review as well. The first step, because I'm following the directions now, is to attach the handlebars. And this took some effort because there are 4 bolts to adequately manipulate and tighten exactly how you need for your perfect adjustment. So this was one of the longest parts of the whole setup, was attaching those front handlebars. As you can see, the rest of the bike is pretty much assembled. This bike came with a rear rack on there, the rear fender on, and everything else. I tried putting the front wheel and tire on at first, but then I realized after a little bit that I should have applied that fender, so I have to go back and do that. But in the meantime, I attached the pedals, which are fairly easy, went back to that front tire and wheel, pulled that off, and decided it was easier to put the fender on, get it in position first, so I did that and it was ready to go. All right, now that the bike's all unboxed and set up, let's talk a little bit more about the Centauri II. It's available in 2 colors, Forest Planet and a Galactic Storm. This one, as you can see in front of me, is the Forest Planet color, which is kind of a light teal green, almost a gray color. Vvolt sent along this bike for me to check out for a few weeks, and then I'll be returning it after this review. It's also available in 3 sizes, and given my 6'1" height, I was sent the large, extra large model to test out. So let's start with some key specifications. In typical fashion, it has an aluminum alloy frame, has a 36 volt 13.6 ampere battery that's UL 2271 tested, and that is found here on the frame, and it drops down if you want to take it out. It is a 350 watt, 650 watt peak, 120 Newton meter mid-drive Ananda D16 motor. It's programmed by Vvolt. It does have an IPX6 water resistant rating, which is perfect for a rainy day like today. And as you also see in this review, it has a Gates carbon belt system. And that automatic 3-speed rear hub transmission supports pedal assist up to 28 miles per hour. Has a Shimano 180 millimeter rotor hydraulic disc brakes on the front and the back. It also has front suspension here in the center with a 30 millimeters of travel on that front fork suspension. 27.5-inch rims with 2.25-inch puncture-resistant tires, and the bike weight is about 50 pounds. It also has the Vvolt IsoStack Hybrid Gel Comfort Saddle, so it's a fairly minimal saddle, but it is very comfortable. Also has a 65 lux front light, and this front light is well integrated into the frame of the bike, as you can see here, and it does also have a rear tail light that also serves as a brake light. It has a display in the center here that does have a USB-C port for accessories, comes with aluminum fenders, and as I mentioned, there's 3 different sizes. The small medium is for heights of 57 to 68 inches. The medium or large is for people 64 to 70 inches tall, And the large, extra large is for people 68 inches to 76 inches. And being that I'm 73 inches, the large, extra large is a perfect fit for me. Vvolt advertises up to 60 miles of range, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. It is also UL 2849 compliant. So let's talk a little bit more about the controller and the display. So there's several buttons on the left side controller. The top button is to toggle the headlight on and off. And then there's a plus and minus, which is the typical that goes up and down through the different levels. And then there's a center button that is actually the power button. If you were to press that continuously, it would scroll through max speed, max power, the range, and I'll talk about that in a minute, an odometer and such. And then the bottom one, if you press and hold that, it will start you on that walking mode. Now, when we're talking about the controller, there's a couple of different levels. There's chill, eco, tour, sport, and turbo modes that we'll talk about in a minute here. And that's the left side, very simple controllers. Over on the right side, we do have an integrated bell that is just your typical mechanical bell. And then there's a button down here on the right side that you might not be familiar with. In some bikes we see, in many bikes actually, we see either a twist throttle or a thumb throttle. This is not a throttle. This little button here on the right is a boost button that will provide up to 4 seconds of turbo power to help you start up from a stop, or if you're going up a hill, I was using that and pressing and holding that, and it will give you up to 4 seconds of turbo power. Now in the center is the automatic auto shift transmission. And that is a similar experience to Lectric One with that Gates carbon belt drive, right? You just start pedaling. There is no gears up here. There's no derailleur in the back. It's that Gates carbon belt drive, just a single belt, doesn't switch on the derailleur or anything. And the only assist is in the assist level that you want the battery and the motor to kick in. Otherwise, you just get on the bike and you just pedal and let that automatic shifting kick in through 3 different gears. And like the Lectric One with the pinion transmission, you do need to coast for about a second when the transmission is in gear to be able to downshift. So you riding along, if you get a condition where you think you might need a different gear, let up for a second, it'll kick in automatically and you'll be able to go. And then that chill mode that I mentioned, that is designed to keep the bike in first gear up to 12 miles per hour. So that's nice when you're touring around a neighborhood or someplace where you don't want that extra speed and you don't need that extra speed, you're just cruising around. That's the chill mode. The eco and the tour mode, they provide support for flatter terrain, while the sport and the turbo are best used for tackling hills. So speaking a little bit of hills, as you know, I ride up a 13 to 15% incline into my neighborhood. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, this bike does not have a throttle, so there was no throttle mode to check out there. But it did a fine job with my hill, keeping me in a 9 to 12 mile per hour range with very little effort on my part. And it was a very, very steep incline, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity to really pause for that shifting, but I would pedal, 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 and then I would give, half a second or maybe that full second, and the bike did adjust to that transmission. And it may not have been as smooth as I've seen that switching of the gears as on flatter terrain, but it was effective, and I was able to get up that hill without having to stop, without having to stand up on the bike, just sit down and pedal, and I was able to go up that very steep hill. And on flatter terrain, of course, I mentioned there's no throttle, so every session was a pedal assist mode session. And shifting was very subtle. It kept it at the level that I wanted. It fit my desired effort as well. And you can press on that plus or minus button to switch between the different modes. And as you do that, one thing you're going to see is you will see, if you have the center button pushed and you have it on range, you will actually see the range change as you switch the assist level. So for example, on the current battery power that I have on the bike, in chill mode, it's showing 62 mile range. If I go all the way up to turbo mode, it is showing me a range of approximately 27 miles. Now, I've been riding it for about a week and testing it out, and I would say those range estimates at those different levels are actually fairly accurate for a fairly flat condition. If you're going to throw in a hill, it will consume that extra power, and if you're using that turbo button a lot, that will consume power as well. But I would say that when you flip through the different modes, whatever it's kind of showing you is a pretty good estimate of that range. Now, say you do show a range and you get out there and you ride farther than that range and the battery dies, or if you just switch that all the way down to 0, it says off, it will give you no range because it's not using any battery at all to power the bike. That is fairly easy riding with the Gates carbon belt. Now, there's no gears to shift between or anything else, but the transmission still works. Things work well. It'll shift if you need it to. It's a very nice ride, and at 50 pounds, it's not too bad to do. Speaking of some of the pros and the cons and the fun with this bike, I'm a huge fan of the Gates belt drives. And for my commuter, that is the only kind of drive or bike I'm going to ride from now on because it requires very low maintenance. It has that sealed automatic transmission in there. It's really designed for commuters who just want a bike that's going to work reliably for years. They could go to work, get work done, come home on the commuting bike and not have to spend hours and hours maintaining the bike. It's really perfect for urban commuters for that reason. It also has a very bright integrated headlight, a tail light. It has those fenders. It does, as you can see here, there is that rear rack, and that's an option, but that rear rack is nice for pannier bags and for putting other cargo on there. Now, in typical fashion, not every bike is perfect. There's always something that can be improved, but the Vvolt Centauri II really is just about the perfect commuter bike. It is fairly expensive, but you won't find an automatic transmission with a Gates carbon belt for less than $2,000. So $3,000 for this model is not that outrageous. It also is a bit heavier than I would like for a commuter bike, but I'm willing to balance that with the low or no maintenance design of the bike. And it's attractive, it's comfortable, it has those ergonomic hand grips, everything switches well, and the range is accurate. So as I mentioned, the price, it is $2,999 in the 2 colors and the 3 size options that I mentioned. But now through 31st December, so you got about 10 days or so from when this review is posted, you can get a free spare battery with your purchase on the website. And that's a $399 value, so look for that deal. Shipping is also free in the US, and they have an industry-leading 3-year warranty as well. You can also purchase other accessories, such as that rear rack, pannier bags, mirror, and a bottle cage. Now, very nicely, the Vvolt representatives sent along this bike to test out for a couple weeks before I send it back, but they also sent, what you can see here, this lovely yelling yellow ShowersPass transit jacket. Now, this is one of my favorite jackets. I'm now going to wear it forever because it has lots of reflective material. It has no hood to bother me while I ride. It has plenty of pockets and zippered pockets to hold things, and it also has air gaps to let me breathe with this jacket. It's currently on sale for just $99, which for a waterproof coat that is very visible is excellent. And actually, I'm wearing ShowersPass pants that I purchased about 3 or 4 years ago, and it allows me to commute to work with my work clothes on and stay completely dry. The kind folks at Vvolt also sent along their Crosspoint wool waterproof gloves. These are a $52 value, and they do have fingertips on the thumb and the index finger to allow you to manipulate your phone with the gloves on. I actually wore these biking over this past week. I showed them to my wife, and she doesn't really know. Hopefully she doesn't watch this video, but I did buy her a pair of these gloves because we like to go on walks around here in the wintertime. And once she tried on this extra large, she loved the gloves. So I bought her a pair of those gloves as well. But I would recommend, if you're considering a bike such as the Vvolt Centauri II, that you do consider some of the ShowersPass gear, which is perfect for weather like this to be able to ride your bike. So for my daily commuting, an automatic transmission Gates carbon e-bike is my preferred option. And after now testing the Lectric One and the Vvolt Centauri II, I'm sold. I will no longer commute with a regular bike. I've got to have this Gates and the automatic transmission. It's a very compelling bike that checks all the boxes for the ultimate commuter, with a form factor that's very similar to what we see in Europe and in Amsterdam. It shifts nicely. It has ample options for assist levels. The turbo button is the boost turbo button is a very nice feature in lieu of a throttle, as it gives you just that little bit of extra support when you need it to get off that stop light or stop sign. And it provides that boost without ever letting the bike get away from you in a throttle. The transmission is essentially maintenance free, with the gears contained in that oil enclosure, and that Gates belt drive makes it perfect for commuting. So you can just hop on and get to work without spending excessive time on maintenance and adjustments. I appreciated the opportunity to test out the Vvolt Centauri II, and also want to thank Vvolt for this additional rain gear that completes my full outfit for winter biking. Thank you everybody for watching. Please subscribe and share, interact with me here, and stay tuned for more coverage of e-bikes, wearables, and other mobile technology. And may the mobile force be with you.